Well, hey there, everyone. So back down here at Carrie Furnaces. This is part 3 of the video series that I'm doing on the blast furnace plant. Today we're going to take a closer look at more of the machinery of the car dumper. What we covered last time was the how the cars and the materials move through there. We're going to talk a little bit more about the machinery. But first, I want to take this opportunity to kind of give you an overview of the entire site and all the equipment and the facilities here. So as we go forward, you could refer back to this as to where we're at on site. So here we go. All right. So now these are on the wall of the blowing engine house, but there is blast furnace number 6 and number 7. Number 7 is missing most of its cast house, but 6 is pretty much intact. This is the blowing engine house. This is where the 48-inch mill is being put together. And this is a powerhouse. This building here is where the electric generating engines were for making electricity from the waste gas from the blast furnace plant. This building's now empty. It's a multi-use space that's the Rivers of Steel Arts program is using, and we also use it for special events. So as you could see here, you can see, well, look, looks like there was a bunch of reciprocating engines in here. Yes, there were. There were several gas blowing engines, and there were a couple of steam-driven blowing engines in here, which provided the air blast for the blast furnaces until a new turbo blower plant was put in down by number 3 and 4 furnace sometime, I believe, in the 1950s. And then when that happened, the blowing engine house was converted into the fab shop for the whole site, the heavy fab shop. And also over here, there were also engines. This shows pumps, but there were reciprocating gas engines driving, I think, a 6,600 volt AC 3-phase 25 cycle power coming out of this building, and the engines here all ran off of blast furnace gas, which is it's a burnable fuel. You can use it to run an engine. It's very low calorific value, so it's special engines. The one thing this misses, though, is that originally there was a boiler house right in the middle here, but it disappeared early on when a central boiler plant down by number 3 and 4 was put in. So what we looked at last time was the car dumper back there, and then we have the ore bridge here. So we're going to look at the car dumper again. We're going to look at the ore bridge. Then we're going to look at the high line where the materials got up to the skip hoist. Then we're going to look at the skip hoist, go to the top of the furnace, look at that. Then to the cast house. Then we're going to look at everything in here, the hot blast stoves, the gas cleaning system, and all that. So that's basically the progression that we're going to take throughout the site as we're looking at all the equipment. Now, over here, here's an actual general plan of the furnace. Is basically the same thing, but just as a plan view. What you see here in yellow, those are the structures that still exist, and everything down here, structures that have since been demolished. So you had furnace number 1, number 2, and then you had number 3, 4. Number 5 was back here. It didn't last very long. And then you have 6 and 7. So at one point you had 7 blast furnaces in here. Number 1 and 2, these were the first ones built. And then after Carnegie Steel bought the Carrie Furnace company, they built additional furnaces, 3 and 4. And then they came back here and did 5, and then in 1906 it was 6 and 7. So everything over in this section here has been wiped out. The hot metal bridge comes across right here. Even the trestle's gone. All this is gone. There are new structures being put in, the roads in here, redeveloping this section. But this right here is the historic site. All right, so we're back here at the car dumper. So we're going to take a little walk over here and show you what happened to the ore after it got dumped out of the car. Okay, once the ore is dumped out of the car, up on the platform up above us, came down into this hopper, and this hopper could hold, I don't know, probably 2 or 3 carloads worth of ore in it. And it would hold it until this thing here was ready to be loaded. And this is a self-propelled, electrically driven transfer car. One of, I think, 3 or 4 that they had here, that could then take the ore from this bin and take it down a track down into the ore yard, where then it would discharge into a pit, and that's where the ore bridge could grab that ore out of the pit and then broadcast it up and put into whatever pile they were building. The ore transfer cars also would go to the ore yard that the number 1 and 2 furnace was taking their ore out of, and that ore yard was right here. And then it also could go to the ore yard that the 3 and 4 furnace was using, and that was that one over there. So you had this series of cars that would just come out of here and then go to whatever ore yard they're bringing ore to, and then come back, and then back and forth, and back and forth, and then go to the other one if they're filling the other one up, or fill up the one that's behind us here. The thing you think about is that, well, wait a minute, you've got one car dumper, and it dumps a car about every minute and a half, and you have 3 ore yards to fill to try to keep up with all the production. It's like, dang, this car dumper was pretty busy. So they also had other ways that they can move ore around here. Sometimes they just bring it in and then just take it up on the high line and then dump it right into the ore yard itself. Oh Lord, let's see. There we go. Okay, so now we are up on the platform here. Remember from the last video, we're talking about hinges. So that whole L-shaped platform down there would rotate up and around. And right here, the car would be basically on its side or tilted a little bit more than 90 degrees, dumping all the ore into here. And then these grizzly bars would catch anything large that you didn't want going into the bin. So, you know, whatever, rocks, tree trunks, whatever ends up in the cars, you could grab it here and get rid of it before it went down into the bin. And then you had this little pan here, and then you had a chute. So if you did have something that was on the grizzly bar you want to get rid of, you could just stick it on the pan, and a little hook, a little eye there, and a hoist on a trolley. So let's say you had something big you need to get rid of, you could run that trolley back in here, pick it up off the grizzly bars, carry it over, set it down on the pan, then hook onto there, pick the pan up because there were a couple hinges right there, and then it would just go swoop right down into the ore yard to be disposed of. That's kind of interesting. Okay, so the controls for the car dumper were all located in this pulpit, and in here you had a couple of operators that would basically run the car dumper. And if you see here, look at that, and there's one over here too. That's a water nozzle. And then there was a handle that went in there so that you could basically pick the water nozzle up and shoot it. Well, what would you need water up here, or high pressurized water? Well, let's say you're unloading a ore jenny, and you got a pocket of ore in the one corner of the car that no matter, you take it all the way up as far as you can, and that material is not coming out of the car. Well, then you could just shoot that high pressure water at that and kind of wash it out of the car. So you had two of them here and two operators, and then they could take care of making sure you get every last pound of ore out of those jennies. Because there's no sense in it making the trip all the way down here from Conneaut just to make the trip back up to Conneaut again. So you want to get those cars as clean as you can get them. All right, let's go up a little bit more here. And a better view of the hold downs, of the hinge, and then way down there is the track. And then back here you can see the counterweights that worked with the hold downs, and then a better view of the grizzly bars and the operator's pulpit. Okay, now let's carry on here. This was a little room that had electrical gear in there for some of the equipment here. Now we're going up even further. So we're taking you to places that are not open to the public. So a lot of the stuff that you're going to be seeing, the only way you're going to see it is by this video series. All right, here's another view looking at down at the dumper. And as we continue our climb up to the top, I haven't been up here in quite a while. Okay. All right. All right, now we can take a look into the control room and the motor room. So we have here 1, 2, 3, 4 motors, and those 4 motors provided the power for picking that platform and the ore johnny up to pick it up and dump it. And in the background there were the electrical switchgear and all that for these motors. And I don't know how many horsepower each one of those motors has. It's probably a good 1,000 horsepower or better for the whole setup. Yeah, here's another view showing the brake, the motor itself, and everything else going on in here. All right. So those motors would turn this drive shaft. This drive shaft would come out and through a series of gears out here, rotate a drum shaft, rotate a drum, which would then pick up the cables, spool the cables out or spool it in, depending on what you're doing. And here we have yet another view down below us, down there to the grizzly bars. And then from here, you can actually get a pretty decent view of this end of the ore bridge. And the furnaces. And then back here is quite a few tons of weight. So these were counterweights to help reduce the amount of sheer lifting force that the motors had to put out. So you'd counterbalance some of the weight of the platform with 2 sets of weights. You have one there and then one back here. And then while we're here, take a look across the river. All right, so all the way down there where you see all that steam is the U.S. Steel Edgar Thomson Works. Then you had the Rankin High Level Bridge. Then the darker color bridge is the Hot Metal Bridge, which is where the molten iron from Carrie Furnaces made it over to the Homestead Works. And then right here called Guardian Self Storage, and this is where the 48-inch universal plate mill was originally installed in 1899. This little area right here. Then this is Ascent Tubular Products, recently shut down. This was the stainless department of U.S. Steel Homestead Works. And then as we go this way, the white building there is U.S. Steel's Research and Development Laboratory. Then you can't see it now behind the trees, but right over here was the river pump house and the water tower that is also owned by Rivers of Steel. And that was the site of the 1892? Yeah, 1892 Homestead strike. And when the Pinkertons landed to break the strike and all that, that all happened right there. So it's a National Historic Landmark, and that's part of our entire set of facilities around here. And then, of course, the Homestead Works went for about a mile or so down around on the inside of the curve of the Monongahela River. So that's basically, you know, what you can see from up here. It's actually pretty nice. If some of these trees weren't here, you'd have a much better view. In the summertime, you can't even see anything over there except for the blue building because leaves on everything. All right, one other thing I wanted to show you while we're up here is, so yeah, about somewhere right in here, this is where number 1 and number 2 blast furnace was at, and 3 and 4, let's see, right back in there. And that large two-tone gray building, that's a new building under construction. That's being done by the local economic development agency. There's additional building sites over here, and I think we got another one over there. So they did a bunch of new development over there. And then also wanted to show you, that's what the top of the 80-tonner looks like. Now you can see it only has half a cab. That part of the cab was removed so it could fit under the car dumper, because where you had those arms that that came down to push against the top of the ore cars, well, there wasn't enough clearance to let that locomotive through with the full cab, so they chopped the cab off. So basically that engine was modified for operation and use here and here alone. Alright, so we'll round out this video with a closer look at this transfer car. So this one was built by the Atlas Car and Manufacturing Company up in Cleveland. I believe it had 120-ton capacity, and it had four arch-bar trucks with traction motors, double-ended cabs on both ends, and had the ability to run using outside third rail anywhere between all 3 ore yards. So I think we've got plans of eventually pulling this out from under here so it can be seen a little bit better out in the open. I think it being in here helped save it, because the former owner scrapped every rail car that was here except for this and the one hot metal car, and this being under here probably is what saved it. So walk around here, we can take a look at the end of it. Yeah, there you can see the traction motor and the end of the cab. And then over here we've got some of the brackets and the rails for the conducting the current for the car. And the shoes were actually, can you see it? Yeah, there they are. The shoes are still there. So they had wood as an insulator, and then you had a cast iron shoe that actually rode on top of the rails. Now you'll see 2 rails here. Those of you familiar with railroads in electrified territory know that third rail means 1 rail. In the steel industry, normally you didn't conduct any current through the car body and through the track. It was all just through 2 independent rails. So you'd have your positive side and your negative side on 2 rails. So it's actually 3rd and 4th rail and not just 3rd rail. So, oh, look, there's some of the taconite pellets. I'm sure some of you have probably seen that along the track. That's the feedstock, the iron ore for the blast furnaces. That's pretty much what blast furnaces use today, is taconite pellets, since most of the raw ore was depleted. So, all right, that's all I've got for this installment, and I guess the next step is to take a closer look at the ore bridge, but that'll be next time. All right, everyone, take care.